Good afternoon to you. 3:06 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, David Strom joins us from Hot Air. We've got a lot to talk about with him. Always a good current event conversation with David. Brianna Lyman's going to be here at 4 o'clock from the Federalist as Michael Cohen admits to something that's actually a crime while testifying against Donald Trump this week. Julie Kelly joins us right here on this program at 4:30. We talked to her about the latest news she's breaking today involving the FBI authorizing the use of deadly force during its raid of Mar-a-Lago. That breaking news we'll cover coming up with Julie. And then Andrew Clyde, the congressman, joins us at 5 o'clock as Democrats fight to allow illegal immigrants to vote in our elections. We'll discuss that with him, and we'll talk to you at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Yeah, the left is doing all sorts of scheming right now because Joe Biden is not in a position to win this election on his own, and I think that might be an understatement. It's just bad right now. In fact, Biden is straight up incapable of even speaking out loud. I mean, look, listen to this. First of all, it was in the last 24 hours, the NAACP speech that he gave on Sunday. The White House has to issue 9 corrections to the public remarks that Joe Biden made in Detroit Sunday evening. 9 of them. And remember, one of the clips was that Biden claimed that he was vice president during the pandemic. They have changed that word in the official White House transcript from pandemic to recession because he wasn't vice president during the pandemic. It's also crazy. So 9 huge corrections there. Biden today was equally incoherent as he said this.
After I signed the PAC Act into law, I handed the pen that I signed it with as a tradition of the most responsible for the legislation.
$5. What did he say? What in the world did he just say? You know what that sounds like to me? Honestly, you know what that sounds like?
After I signed the PAC Act.
You wanna know by now.
I mean, what is that? After I signed the PAC what is he saying? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I look forward to the White House transcript where we finally find out what they intended for him to say. So things are going badly for Joe Biden, which is why the left is scheming yet again how they can win this thing without Joe Biden actually getting the necessary votes. That's the game plan. And we've begun to see on television some of these interviews where they are challenging Republicans now. Like, are you going to accept the results of this election no matter what? That's the framework. It's like they don't care how corrupt any of it is. They straight up say, regardless of the corruption, this is the pretext to the question, although they won't say it like that. Regardless of the way this election is conducted, regardless of suspicions about the election, regardless of the efforts by the media to suppress information, regardless of anything, will you accept the results? Will you accept the results? And some Republicans, for once, are not playing this game anymore. Marco Rubio this weekend.
Let me look forward. Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter what happens,
No
Senator?
matter what happens. What a stupid question. What a stupid question. Not a journalism question. Left-wing hatchet man question. Regardless of what happens, how moronic is that? What if you are observing someone straight up stuffing ballot boxes? If Kristen Welker's standing there at her polling place and she's watching, and a guy with a shirt on that says, "I'm a Democrat ballot stuffer," it says right there on his T-shirt, and he's literally handwriting ballots and stuffing them in a box right in front of Kristen Welker, is her position that you have to accept the results regardless of what happens? Come on, listen to that.
Let me look forward. Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter what happens,
No matter
Senator?
what happens.
No matter what happens? No, if it's an unfair election, I think it's going to be contested by either side.
Senator, no matter who wins.
I think you're asking the wrong person. The Democrats are the ones that have opposed every Republican victory since 2000.
True.
Every single one.
True.
It's Hillary
No
Clinton
Democrat
said
has
that-
refused to concede. Hillary Clinton conceded. Senator, will you accept the election results?
Stacey Abrams, anyone?
Hillary Clinton said the election was stolen from her and that Trump was illegitimate. Kamala Harris agreed.
Senator, she
We have
conceded
Democrats
the election.
now.
Senator,
Well, by this standard, Donald Trump conceded the election. You see what she's saying? She's saying, well, Hillary Clinton conceded. She lost and she conceded. By that standard, Trump left on Inauguration Day when Biden came into office. So what is she even talking about?
Conceded the election.
She said that Trump was illegitimate. She said that the election had been stolen.
Yep.
Kamala Harris agreed. By the way, there are Democrats serving in Congress today who in 2004 voted not to certify the Ohio electors because they said those machines had been tampered with.
Yes.
And you have
It was the Diebold scandal. In 2004, they claimed that voting machines were tampered with to give the election to George W. Bush.
Democrats now saying they won't certify 2024 because Trump is an insurrectionist and ineligible to hold office. So you need to ask them. I think have you ever asked the Democrat this question on your show? I bet you've never asked a Democrat that question.
Good for Marco Rubio. Little Marco's come a long way, hasn't he? So Marco Rubio sitting there on NBC going, wait a second. Let's just pause. This idea that anyone should accept the election results, quote, no matter what happens, Looney Tunes. That's an insane way to consider this. The other piece is, when was the last time you asked any Democrat about their election denialism? They've denied every single election that they've lost this century. Every single one. Not a moment of hand-wringing on NBC about that subject. J.D. Vance asked about a week ago by Dana Bash over on CNN about the election. J.D. Vance giving a perfectly acceptable answer here.
2024, this election year that we're in, will you commit to accepting the results of this year's election?
Look, Dana, I totally plan to accept the results of 2024. I think that Donald Trump will be the victory. And if it's a free and fair election, Dana, I think every Republican will enthusiastically accept the results. And again, I think those results will show that Donald Trump has been elected president.
Entirely reasonable answer, right? He says, look, I think Trump's going to win this thing, but if it's a free and fair election, of course, we would be comfortable with the results of this election.
Re-elected president. I think that this question, though, it's interesting, Dana, because we have to be willing, as Democrats did in 2000, as Democrats have done in the past, and certainly as Republicans did in 2020, is if you think there were problems, you have to be willing to pursue those problems and try to prosecute your case. And certainly, if we have a free and fair election, I'll accept the results.
Even if Joe Biden wins?
Sure. If it's a free and fair election, I will accept the results, Dana, whoever wins.
That's the correct answer. Yeah, Democrats are freaking out. How dare you? Why would you say that? A free and fair election? Because that's the way it's supposed to be conducted. And the electorate, by the way, should have that confidence that it was a free and fair election. You have an obligation to convince them that's the truth. Kristen Welker, on May 5th of this year, has Senator Tim Scott on her program, and she asked about this as well.
Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
Well, at the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That's a terrible question.
That is my statement.
But is it just yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times. But
Senator, just a yes or no answer.
So the American people will make the decision.
But I don't hear you committing
for President Trump. That's clear.
I don't hear you committing to the election results.
Here's the challenge.
Will you commit to accepting the election results?
Yes, she wants him to say yes. I will blindly accept the election results, no matter what happens, no matter how many shenanigans are identified, no matter how many challenges are mounted. I will accept the election results. Whatever NBC wants me to say, I will say.
This is why so many Americans believe that NBC is an extension of the Democrat Party. At the end of the day, I've said what I've said, and I know that the American people, their voices will be heard, and I believe that President Trump will be our next president. It's that simple.
But, senators, you know, the hallmark of our democracy is that both candidates agree to a peaceful transfer of power. So I'm asking you as a potential...
No, that's not the hallmark of our democracy. If you're going to establish one, the hallmark of our republic is that the voters dictate who's in charge and that outside forces don't distort that. That's the, quote, hallmark of our republic. The hallmark of our democracy is you just collapse and accept whatever left-wing power grab may come along.
VP nominee, will you accept to commit to the election results in this election cycle, no matter who wins? Just simply yes or no.
I expect President Trump to win the next election. Listen, I'm not going to answer your hypothetical question when, in fact, I believe the American people are speaking today on the results of the election. And if it continues for the next 6
Will NBC accept the results of the election when Donald Trump wins? Will NBC accept the results? Kristen Welker, they should turn just every single question that Kristen Welker puts forward like this to any Republican going forward. Kristen Welker, will you accept the results of the election if Donald Trump wins in November? That should be the question. Will you accept it? Or are you going to raise a huge fuss? Fuss is coming. You know that. You know that. There's a piece in the Associated Press today, and it's not journalism, I can promise you that. It is, honestly, it is a brazen act of left-wing water carrying. The headline on this piece, this press release for the left, is called "Election Deniers Moving Closer to GOP Mainstream," report shows, as Trump allies fill Congress. And they lament that Rob Portman is no longer in the Senate. Ohio Senator Rob Portman, he voted to accept President Joe Biden's win over the defeated former President Donald Trump, they write in the lead, despite Trump's false allegations that Biden only won because of fraud. No, it wasn't just because of fraud. There was also media censorship. There was also, tech censorship, shutting down entire means of communication. Yeah, that played a role as well. But as Trump charges towards his rematch with Biden in 2024, Portman has been replaced by Senator J.D. Vance, a potential VP pick who has echoed Trump's false claims of fraud and said he'll accept the results this fall only if it's a, quote, free and fair election, the AP writes in scare quotes. It's very menacing. He would only accept a free and fair election? He's basically Hitler. That's crazy. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott and Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who you just heard from, other possible VP picks, also declined to object to Biden's victory over Trump, but have been less committal this year. Rubio said recently, if things are wrong with November's election, Republicans won't stand by and accept the outcome, nor should they. If things are wrong with the election, they shouldn't just roll over. They should defend, what's the word they use? Our democracy. And they go on here. They're saying there's all sorts of Republicans who are, like Speaker Mike Johnson, even him. They're all party to Trump's dangerous lies about the 2020 election. A new report released Tuesday, that's today, by States United Action, a group that tracks election deniers, said nearly 1/3 of the lawmakers in Congress supported in some way Trump's bid to overturn the 2020 results or otherwise cast doubt on the reliability of elections. Several more are hoping to join them running for election this year to the House and Senate. Quote, the public should have a real healthy dose of concern about the real risk of having people in power who've shown they're not willing to respect the will of the people, said Lizzie Almer of States United Action. All right, let's pause here. States United Action. They put out a report. They say Republicans are election deniers. The Associated Press is running a piece about how all of these Republicans are election deniers, and they're crediting States United Action with this breaking news report. Now, I don't think I have to go much further here. You're probably wondering to yourself, who the hell are States United Action? Who is this group? Why would they published a report? The AP's running with it. Who are they? Well, like I swear you probably have the answer already in your head. I'll make it clear for you in just a moment. So the Associated Press has a, quote, report today that they want to tell everybody about election deniers in Congress, and they credit a group called States United Action. They said they have a brand new report out that shows we've got tons of election deniers in Congress. So I did what anybody should do, which is, who the hell are these people? States United Action. You ready for this? You click into the report. They only identify Republicans. They say hundreds of Republicans are election deniers, but you don't see names like Jamie Raskin or Pramila Jayapal or any of the other Democrats who objected in 2016 to the counting of the Electoral College votes for Donald Trump. They said the election was rigged back then. They said that he shouldn't be president. They were election deniers, of course. Not mentioned in this report as they identify election deniers in Congress. They're a left-wing group. And they're founded by an Obama alumni called Norm Eisen. Norm Eisen co-founded an organization called Crew, which received funding from, you guessed it, George Soros and the Tides Foundation, which includes donors, including George Soros as well, Bill Gates, Pierre Omidyar, all these big left-wing billionaires. Tides, for what it's worth, is also currently responsible for bankrolling all of those anti-Israel campus protests and sit-ins all across the country. Norm Eisen also served as the Democrat counsel during Trump's first impeachment. Additionally, he was credited in that infamous Time magazine article, The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign that saved the 2020 election. He was credited as one of the organizers that stopped Trump from being reelected in 2020. And then Eisen also has written articles and been supportive of efforts to rig ballots in Colorado and Maine, as well as other places, to remove Trump from the ballot so voters don't even have the choice. So the election denial report is put together by an organization that's trying to rig the election. And the Associated Press runs it like it's real. And then they turn, one of the other funny things is they turn to some expert from the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU, which is also funded by George Soros. So in case you're wondering, they're fake news. It's just a scam. Jason's calling in from Kensington, line 2. Jason, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
G'day, Vince. I mean, it's amazing. Like, you know, if these people would run on their own merits and be sure about themselves, none of this would be going on. I mean, the news people have become so irrelevant now. And I mean, I just don't know. They just don't realise how stupid and how biased their questioning is. It's just amazing just how obvious it is. But I guess no one sort of calls them out on it. I mean, except for guys like Rubio and that. I mean, the problem too is sometimes as the Republicans, it's kind of better late than never. But
yes,
they never sort of move up, and they never sort of move up in a straight line, you know, and meet these people because they've been getting away with this for the last 4 years. It's just like in the last couple of months, there's been a bit of a tide turn as far as support for Trump with his own party, and you know, this should have been going on for the last 4 years.
Yeah, no, they're slow to wake up, aren't they, Jason? It's unfortunate. Which is why it takes, you know, people like us to see these things, flag them, and then just harass these Republicans. Hey, get out there and have the fight. More people should sound like Marco Rubio. You should go on television. Go ahead, accept the interview, but come loaded for bear. Bring the receipts. Fight back, for goodness sake.
Yep, exactly.
And don't suck up to them. Jason, thank you. I appreciate the call as always, brother. It's Jason in Kensington. Hey, coming up, David Strom will be with us in just a moment. Speaking of fighting back against the insane media, these people are con artists. You know who this woman Nikole Hannah Jones is? The woman behind the lying nonsense 1619 project. She doesn't understand anything about the economy. She thinks she does, and that's dangerous for the rest of us. She's got a job at the New York Times. David Strom will break down what she's getting so wrong and so much more. That's ahead. Hey, good afternoon to you. 3:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Brianna Lyman's going to be with us from the Federalist at 4 o'clock. Julie Kelly here at 4:30 with the breaking news about how the FBI was authorized to use deadly force in the raid on Mar-a-Lago. In case you're wondering how third world we are becoming. And then Congressman Andrew Clyde is here at 5 o'clock as Democrats fight to have illegal immigrants vote in elections in the United States. It's all too much. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. You know, the New York Times likes to pretend it's a place where smart people work, and they write news for smart people to consume. But it turns out it's a place where dumb people work. And that's unfortunate for the rest of us because too many people in power rely on that institution to inform them. And as a result, well, you're looking at it. Our country is going haywire. That's one of the reasons. Here to discuss now is David Strom. He's associate editor over at Hotair, who follows these crazy people very closely. David, good to have you with us.
It's always a pleasure.
It's. I was reading your coverage, as I do each day, of a woman called Nikole Hannah Jones. People will remember her for the infamous and demented 1619 Project, where she claimed that the American Revolution was fought to preserve slavery. She was roundly denounced by historians everywhere for that bit of stupidity. But it didn't stop the 1619 Project from becoming a curriculum that was put into schools across the country, unfortunately. But now
and winning a Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, she won a Pulitzer, which, of course, you know, that means that award has no meaning. There's also this. She's now claiming that wealthy people hide their wealth, and as a result, it doesn't create any jobs.
Well, not just that. They hide their wealth so that it will grow, as if putting cash into a mattress is going to make you wealthy over time. I mean, it really is. I mean, it was shocking ignorance. It's even more shocking because someone said, well, if it's stored away, are you meaning invested? Because investments are what create jobs. You give money from someone who doesn't know what to do with it, you hand it over to someone who does, and jobs get created. She's like, how does that work?
She actually asked that. Yeah, there's a tweet thread that you've highlighted today on Hot Air. She expressed the following. Again, this is one of the top writers at the New York Times. She says, most wealth is not used to create jobs. Most wealth is stored away and used to create more wealth for the wealthy family. She actually posted this in public. And a guy whose name is literally half a sandwich responds. It's the best part. Half a sandwich says, if by stored away you mean invested, then yes, most wealthy people invest their money to turn it into more money. Investment often creates jobs. She responds, how? How did this woman get a job at the New York Times? Can you please explain that to me?
Well, I mean, she's got the right race and gender, and more than that, she's got the perfect attitude, which is sort of angry. So it really is amazing, though, because first of all, one of the most remarkable things about wealth in the United States is how much it churns. If you look, there are relatively few families today that are nearly as wealthy as the people who created the fortune, whatever it was. It tends to actually get dissipated, and the grandchildren of tycoons are often crazy loons who waste their money. I mean, famously, there's a guy who's a billionaire through inheritance who's in China and investing his money or using it to support communism in the United States. I mean, now in the first and second generation, what happens, the wealth is created because someone did something innovative, right? They provided value to people, and so they become wealthy. And then the next generation rarely actually keeps that going. They take the wealth and they invest it.
Yes.
So that somebody else who can use the money better than they can turn that into even more wealth, and the people who invested it get a cut of that.
Yes.
That's how investment works. I mean, we all know this through our retirement accounts. If I save $5,000 a year, there's not much that I can do with that.
Right.
I'm not a great entrepreneur or anything else, but I pool it with other people's money and say, here, Elon Musk, take my $5,000 and do something great with it. And guess what? We get SpaceX.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Works.
But what's funny about her taking this position, and there's a number of things, but one is that she is a loyal servant of the left, and the left is very dependent on these basically this crony capitalism that's really been such an infection in the country, where you have government endorsed monopolies that are taking tons of money from American taxpayers. They're having their competition crowded out by government regulation. Nikole Hannah Jones is the type of person who is supporting that system. So this idea that she's somehow standing up to the man, standing up to the rich guy, and I can't believe how people are using that money. No, she is defending a system where wealthy Democrats are in bed with the government and distorting the entire market.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think about what happened, both with the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really the Green New Deal, but going back to the green subsidies under Obama, there are all those famous cases where, we raise taxes so that we can invest in the new economy, and what do you wind up with? Solyndra. so you took money away from people that could have been invested in, something productive.
Right.
And instead you piss it away, and all you've done is made, selected left-wingers rich.
How far-reaching is this ignorance, though? So Nikole Hannah Jones is kind of a cartoon character example of what a lefty is. But it is the kind of thing that Joe Biden utters on a routine basis from various lecterns, because he keeps talking about, we need to stop this. We need to stop all of this corporate greed, and we need to raise taxes on corporations. But it doesn't take a master's level economics understanding to find out that, well, wait a second, if you raise taxes on corporations, in order for them to cover those expenses, they're going to have to either take it out of their employees, or if they have to raise the price of the goods that they're selling to the public. So if you're going to hit those corporations, all you're doing is hitting consumers. Do these people understand this or no?
Oh, absolutely not. It's quite the opposite. I mean, the chair of the Council on Economic Advisors is Jared Bernstein, and he's not even an economist.
Right.
There's this wonderful, I'm sure you've seen the video of him trying to explain how money works. And the guy's a drooling idiot. When he was being interviewed, he's saying, well, the government could just print money. And so the interviewer says, so why do we borrow it?
Yeah, let me play the audio so people can really get this. So this is the audio of Jared Bernstein on a documentary called Finding the Money, and he has no idea how the economy works.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
Like you said, they print the dollar, so why does the government even borrow?
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Since they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money, and then it uses that money to, I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Because it's like the government clearly prints money. It does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
Oh, I don't know what else to do. I have to laugh at that because it's so preposterous. But that is scary as hell, David Strom. That guy is supposed to be like the nation's leading economist?
Absolutely. No, this is the guy who sits down and explains economics to the President of the United States, and he has not even the glimmer of a clue what he is talking about, which explains why our economy is in such tough shape. What's remarkable about the American economy is how it survives these people. Mm-hmm. And it speaks to the creativity of the American public that they can get around, all the idiocy. It harms us, but at least up to now, it has not killed the American economy to have these people in charge.
Oh, my God.
Because there is so much innovation out there.
Yeah, that's true, but they are trying pretty hard to do that. I mean, if they keep printing all this money, you will destroy this economy. There's no question about that. That's the end product of all of this. And we're already seeing, look, prices are up dramatically for people. Americans are poorer now than they were when Joe Biden took office. The media keep playing this game of pretend like everything is fine. The White House keeps insisting the economy is okay. Full-time jobs are collapsing. Part-time jobs are exploding. Multiple part-time jobs just to make ends meet. Credit card debt is out of control. If this keeps up, their best efforts will wreck this economy, David Strom.
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt of that. And, there's Ernest Hemingway was once asked, how did you go bankrupt? And his answer was, well, at first slowly, but then all at once.
Yes.
Which is how it actually works, is you dig this hole over time. It rarely, is just one event. You dig a hole over time, you overspend here, you overborrow there, and then at some point, the whole house of cards collapses. And I am deeply worried that if we get another 4 years with Joe Biden, that's where we're going to be.
Okay. Hey, as we're talking, I just got a text message from the dear wife of Mark Levin. Julie Levin is listening to our conversation, and she just said, this crazy New York Times lady should look to Joe Biden, whose entire multi-generational family exploiters got wealthy by their name, and keep it. They don't pay taxes because they set up a zillion LLCs through which they launder funds and also set up S corporations to avoid paying taxes along the way. Oh, and they don't give to charity. So she's pointing out what I was saying before, which is like all these lefties and the nature of the way they think wealth is handled is literally just by bilking taxpayers and then not actually giving any money to the government and not giving any money to charity.
Yeah, their economic model really is pillage. It really is that simple. And I think it's very hard for people to understand. If they don't understand basic economics, they think it's all a matter of distribution.
Yeah.
That wealth is fixed, and so it's a question of who can grab how much. And, to a certain extent, that was true in the Middle Ages. Everybody was poor except the people who took wealth. And then we invented capitalism. And suddenly wealth has grown, exponentially, literally exponentially. If you look at where wealth was, 500 years ago compared to today, I mean, to call it incomparable, it understates it.
Yeah, and they want to take us back. They want these commies. Yeah, and they don't have to be smart to do it. They just have to mouth the words, just like Nikole Hannah Jones at the New York Times. David Strom, we could go on forever. We have before, and we'll do it again in the future. Yeah. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today, sir. Well, the left's election rigging schemes continue in New York. The jury has been dismissed until next week. All the arguments are done. And closing arguments are set to happen next week. The jury will be called back then, next week, Tuesday, to hear those closing arguments ahead of their deliberations in what a scam of a trial. But I have a remainder for you from the weekend. Joe Biden spoke to Morehouse College Sunday morning, and he spoke to the NAACP in Detroit Sunday evening. And it was on that occasion, while he was there, he suggested that, imagine, if you will, if it was a group of black people who had gone into the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, how would Trump have treated them? Said Joe Biden. Take a listen to this.
And when he lost in 2020, and I mean this sincerely, something snapped in Trump. He just can't accept he lost. And he lost it. That's why on January 6th, what happened? Every legal avenue Trump tried to challenge the election failed. So it unleashed an insurrection. And now he's running again. He's not only obsessed about losing 2020, he's clearly unhinged. Just listen to him. He calls the erectionists who stormed Capitol Hill
the erectionists.
He says if reelected, he wants, quote, every one of them pardoned. Let me ask you, what do you think he would have done on January 6th if black Americans had stormed the Capitol? No, I'm serious.
It's an interesting question that he raises because you know what Joe Biden did to the black people who went into the Capitol on January 6, 2021? He produced the longest prison sentences yet for them. I'm going back now to an Associated Press headline, October 10th, 2022. Black man's 63-month sentence matches longest for January 6th riot. That's the Biden administration. Joe Biden sought and secured a 5-year prison sentence for a black man, the longest of anyone in the January 6th riot at the time. Subsequently, he secured a 22-year sentence for an Afro-Cuban man by the name of Enrique Terrio, who wasn't even in Washington, D.C. Is a black guy who got 22 years in prison because of Joe Biden. So ask again, Joe, what would happen if black people went into the Capitol on January 6, 2020? What would happen under those circumstances? Well, if Joe Biden's president, he's sending them to the clink for the longest time possible. That actually happened. Stay with us. Brianna Lyman joins us next.